credit repair secrets nobody wants to share with you. This is part 8 of the 25-part series. My name is credit coach Nicole Scott. If you are new here, make sure you have subscribed and watch all of the 25-part series. I have put together this amazing guide, which took me a very long time to ensure that you guys get all of the credit repair hacks that everyone is doing. Nobody is sharing, of course. They don't want you to know how they're doing everything, but not over here. There's no gatekeeping. I'm exposing these hoes, okay? But moving forward, we're going to be talking about not only part 8, but in this 25-part series, you can see all the wonderful things that we are going to be covering. If you don't want to wait for all of the videos to come out, you can always purchase this guide. And if you are a part of the credit community, you're going to have access to this inside of our community. If you have not joined the credit community, this is what it looks like, and this is what you are missing out on, guys. You're going to have access to all of these videos. There is no gatekeeping. The price that you pay is going to be the price that you get for everything. There's no upcharge of watching certain videos. So want to make that clear. But today, in today's video, we're covering collections. The myths, I'm busting them all. Do you pay it? Do you not? You know, every other credit repair, I don't know how you want me to call them, furu out there, they are telling you, don't pay your collections. You know, sign up for credit repair with me and I'll get your collections deleted. God, don't pay your collections. If I hear one more say that, I might just lose my shit. You can pay your collection. If you want to pay your collection, if it's your debt, and it's holding you back and you're like, look, I don't want to deal with it. I just want my credit back. I want to get this behind me. Don't feel bad about paying debt. Sometimes it must be done. Now, there's 2 types of debt that this might fall under. Okay, there are collections and there are charge-offs. All right. Sometimes they're even listed as a collection/charge-off. But in fact, collections and charge-offs are very different. And I'm going to be covering collections in this video. I have another section that is dedicated just to charge-offs, and that is going to be later on in the series. But that's why it's important for you to watch all 25 videos in this 25-part series, because these are all of the credit repair secrets and hacks that credit repair business owners are doing, but of course don't want to share with you, right? Why would they want to do that? You know, people out there are gatekeepers, and those are the same people that are begging for business on TikTok and going live and, you know, wanting people to buy into them. I am not doing none of that. Okay. The reason being is my goal was to provide 100% value to you guys. In fact, I put together a free credit kit that has so much information in there. I should be charging for it. It does include my letter library here. So if you guys have not gotten access to the credit kit, this is what it looks like. Okay. This is the credit kit. It's got business credit. It's got credit repair. It's got credit stacking. It's got the credit bundle. I mean, look at all this free value. And this is just one folder, like not even the folder. Shelf corporations, why they're good. Social media university masterclass, the Navy Federal, how to join, and, you know, guide and hacks on that. So much. The folders, just as much value. The opt-out guides, everything is in there. The business credit, I mean, there's so much information in here. This is essentially like what people are charging you for to join their community and charging you $1,500 to do so, which, you know, I'm not mad at that. But what I am trying to tell you guys is it doesn't do you any good to get this information if you're not going to do shit with it. So I need your commitment right now. Okay, we're right here. We're right here. I need your commitment to say, Coach, I'm all in. Can I hear you say it one time now? You all in? You're all in. You're committed. I got you locked in. So that means that you have to take action. You have to learn, you have to implement, and most importantly, you have to take action. Not tomorrow, but today. All right? Get a copy of your credit reports. Work on something to do with your credit every single day. Treat this like a job, because if you don't, you're not going to understand it. You're not going to appreciate it. You're going to continue to F up if you don't know how much work it actually actually takes to fix your credit. It's getting harder and harder to repair credit. There's no secret behind that. With AI and the amount of information that is shared out there, it is getting harder and harder to run from your debt. Okay. We need to have a healthy relationship with credit and understand how to have a long-term successful credit report. All right. Because that's going to bring so many opportunities to you. If you are a business owner, possibilities are limitless, because most business owners that scale and grow their business, even up to 45% of business owners need credit to scale their business, because why would you want to use all of your cash that you have on hand to grow your business or to purchase equipment? It just, there's so much opportunity. I'm not even going to get into it. Back to the subject at hand here. We're talking about collections, and this is a long, really long section because there's a lot information that I want to go over with collections, and I tried to put as much as I possibly could into this guide. Number one is, when you have a collection, like I said, if you want to pay it, great. But before you pay it, I recommend that you get the purchase agreement or you get some sort of itemized billing statement so you can understand where they are coming up with this figure that they have reported on your credit report. Okay, because a lot of times with the whole dispute process, especially when it comes to third-party collection companies, because there are charge-offs, right? Those are with the original creditor, meaning they are still managing it in-house. A lot of times that happens with Navy Federal or Capital One. Eventually they might sell it to a third-party debt collector, but a lot of times they'll hold it in-house for quite some time and they may never sell it. We just don't know, right? But then we have what's called third-party collection agencies. These are companies that have never reported to your credit, but now they're reporting to your credit because you have this alleged debt, right? Now, there's two types of third-party collection agencies. There are service providers, which provide a service to their clients. And oftentimes service providers are utility companies and cell phone companies. Like if you didn't pay Verizon, they're going to collect on behalf of Verizon. Chances are they don't own the debt, which can be a good thing for those type of accounts, because those accounts are usually the best ones to do the pay for deletion, which we've already covered in this series, meaning you are going to settle it for a much lower amount than what they're alleging in exchange for them updating the balance to zero and then of course deleting the account from your credit. Oftentimes, if you settle the account with, say, a third-party collection provider that's providing a service to their client, they're just going to delete it after you pay it because they're not going to continue to report. They have no business doing so, and it's gone. Perfect. Whew. In the past, right? One less thing you have to worry about. And then on the flip side of that, we have what's called junk debt buyers. They are collection agencies that purchase debt in bulk for pennies on the dollar. Literally pennies on the dollar. It's usually very sloppy. It's a mess. They usually don't have proof to be able to validate your debt request. So those are the two types, right? And a lot of times, the first plan for you is to request debt validation. Inside of this guide, I actually have included the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act and the Fair Credit Reporting Act under the laws section. But collections actually fall under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act when we're dealing with these collectors. And a lot of times they like to violate those things. And in this guide, I give you the top ways that these debt collectors are making violations so you can sue them. Okay. Now, if you say, look, I need to deal with a lawyer because this debt collection company has violated the law. They've violated the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. They've called me. They're being abusive towards me, and I want to sue the hell out of them. You can totally do that. Build your case, collect your proof. If they're contacting you before 9 a.m., after 9 p.m., if they've called you multiple times in a 7-day period, these are all ways that debt collectors most commonly commonly violate the laws. And we've got that in here for you guys. But if you do need a lawyer, I would recommend you guys go to 𝑘onsumeradvocates.org. And this is where you can actually search for a licensed attorney that is in your area to work with. This is one person that I would recommend. They are out of New York. And honestly, if you are in the state of New York, I would contact Abel, but there are a ton of other great consumer advocates out there. Now, there is a difference between consumer advocates that are lawyers and consumer advocates that you see on YouTube or social media talking about the law and saying things like late payments are illegal to report. Some people that aren't lawyers shouldn't be given legal advice for that purpose because it's false information. Unfortunately, I know it sounds good and we all want it to be true. And again, I give you the information that you need to know, not what you want to hear, because it's not always peaches and cream around this bitch. Okay? But you need to deal with a consumer attorney who is a licensed to practice law in the state in which you reside to get the best results, okay? And you want to find someone who's an advocate, not someone who's just a consumer attorney that's going to tell you to pay or, just deal with it. You want to, outline the violations that the collection agency has made and then, figure out what those damages would be to you, and you can sue them for a lot of money. Now, I always recommend that if you are doing anything with the collections agency, that you have everything in writing. Therefore, if you are requesting debt validation, do it in writing. Oftentimes, collection agencies have an email address that will work perfectly fine. If you are going to sue them and you're looking to build a case, you can send it certified mail return receipt, so that way you have proof of everything, and keep a copy of everything. And I want to show you guys something. Okay, now, if you know my story or anything about my story, you'll know that I had to fix my own credit, and that's how I learned, and that's how I fell in love with credit. I was my first client. And this is my credit binder that I had when I was fixing my credit. And I kept a copy of everything in here, right? And I was very organized. And as you can see, I kept, all of my certified mail. There's a lot of stuff from like collections, Midland, but I made a binder of it and I kept it all super organized. There's the receipt right there. And that's how I started. So if you guys are fixing your credit, you want to make sure that you keep a copy of everything, keep records of everything, especially when it comes to these collection agencies, because they tend to have amnesia a lot of the times. So you have to remind them and show proof. And if you plan to ever take them to court, you're going to need to build a case against them. So it's great to have all of the proof that you need right then and there. But let's talk about verifying collections and, first of all, making sure that the collection company is legit and even licensed to be able to collect in your state. So this is the multi-state licensing system. It's called the NMLS. Okay, try to say that 10 times. But this is where you can actually look up their information and make sure that they are, in fact, a licensed collection agency, because number one, they have to be licensed in order to collect in the state in which that debt originated. Okay, now you can always check with your Secretary of State, Attorney General's office as well. And then you can also refer to the state's bank regulator for information in confirming the professional license of a debt collector. Okay, so these are some resources for you to, number one, make sure that they are valid, they are licensed, and they are operating within the law. They're licensed to do so. They're licensed to collect debt, right? Then we want to go ahead and request the validation of debt. And inside of the law, that's actually 1692 GB. So that's where you want to, use the law and say, look, by law, I have the right to validate this debt. Identify discrepancies, negotiate if you want to pay it off. There's nothing wrong with paying it, but the goal is to pay 20 to 50 cents on the dollar. Okay. Especially if they purchase the debt, I would try to go lower, like 20 cents on the dollar. If a collection collection agency is collecting on behalf of their client, a lot of times they have a lot less wiggle room to work with. So sometimes they're not able to settle for that low of amount, or they would have to go back and speak with their client and see if the client would be willing to accept your settlement. But that's okay. Allow them to do that. Always ask for the purchase agreement. So if the company, the collection agency, is a third-party debt collection company, that means that they should have what's called a purchase agreement. They aren't necessarily going to have the original contract with the original signature. And I know that's what your favorite gurus on here are telling you all is, oh, well, if they don't have the original contract with your original signature in wet ink, then it's not valid. Again, those are the ones that are not licensed to give information. I'm not giving legal information. I'm giving educational information, and you can, verify and research, but I'm not giving outlandish like, oh, late payments are illegal to be reported. Anyways, but if you have questions, you can always consult with a licensed attorney that is in your state. But here are some of the most common FDCPA violations that are out there. More than 40% of the reported FDCPA violations involved some sort of harassment from the creditor. We are going to be using the law, which in this case, validation of debts is in the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So you see it's 15 U.S. 1692 G, and then we want to go down to section B, where disputed debts. And you guys can review this at your own time, but this is where the law really gets good, because this is allowing us to request and dispute any debt out there. Now, when you get notices in the mail from a collection agency, that's why it's so important for you to open all of the mail that comes to your door, whether you want to return it or not. Don't, because you need to read it and understand what it's saying. Okay. So a lot of times you're going to get what's called a dunning letter, right? This is a letter that's going to be sent to you approximately 30 days before the account is set to report to your credit. You want to respond. You have to respond. Okay. How do you respond? You can respond via mail and mail them a letter saying that this account is disputed and denied. You can also email them and let them know this account is disputed and denied, and ask them to provide you with the purchase agreement and the validation of this alleged debt. Now, when you are requesting validation, you need to make sure that it's done as soon as possible when you get that dunning letter, because while you have disputed it, they're not allowed to pursue collection activity. So they're not going to have the authority or the right to report it to your credit until they have validated the debt, especially when you have disputed it. And that's another thing that gets debt collectors into big trouble, is they'll go ahead and just report the disputed debt anyways. But we have specifically let the collection agencies know that this account is disputed, and they have failed to update that information on the credit reports. So they have to mark it down that it's disputed, because that is the law. And if they don't, and you're able to, prove it, just simply taking screenshots of the account from one month to the next, hey, they never marked this that I disputed it. Because once you have a third-party collection account that's on your credit report and it's marked as disputed, it kind of holds less weight, and they know that. So, they don't like that. The collection agencies are never easy to work with. I've never really met someone that's kind or understanding that's from a collection agency. They try to scare you into paying. And, again, that's their job, but don't fall for it. You have to go through the channels, even if it takes some time. Okay. Even if you feel like it's a waste of time, a lot of time it's not, but you want to go through and make sure that the debt is valid. See how they came up with this number. Ask for the purchase agreement. Ask for the, outline of, figures, basically the billing statement, and how they came up with this number, because they cannot charge you all these extra fees and interest and all that extra crap. No, they're not supposed to be doing that. Now, these are the most common FDCPA violations that a lot of collection agencies are making. Now, number one is harassment. Okay, them repeatedly calling you, harassing you. You've told them it's not a good time. You've told them it's an inconvenience for you. you. You told them you're at work and you can lose your job or get in trouble from their harassing phone calls. And this is great because if they keep on doing it, you've got yourself a lawsuit as long as you can prove it. Record every time they call you. Okay. If you have a second cell phone, record it. Okay. Record you answering the phone saying, hey, no, this is an inconvenient time. I dispute and deny the debt. Hang up. Okay. But don't be afraid to answer the phone. Okay. Because if they continue to call you, they are in violation because they are not allowed to call you before 8 a.m. or after 9 a.m. So if they call you before 8 o'clock, that's a violation. If they call you after 9 p.m., that is a violation. And another violation that a lot of these collectors make is they call you repeatedly. They are not allowed to call you. Once they speak to you, they cannot call you for another 7 days. So if they are constantly calling you, you must be in their auto dialer system or something, but you can get that as a violation and get them to delete the account based on their violations because that's part of the settlement agreement. And sometimes you just might need to find a consumer lawyer that can help you. I gave you guys some resources up there, but go through all of these different violations. I'm not going to, review all of them with you. That's why I put them on this sheet so you guys can be educated, be aware, educate your clients, and just have that knowledge because a lot of these collection agencies are going to try to take advantage. They're going to try to scare you into paying. They might be even violating when they do that because they're not allowed to threaten you. They're not allowed to say, hey, if you don't pay, we're going to sue you. If you don't pay, we're going to take it out of your paycheck. If you don't pay, we're going to tell your job. They can't do any of that. So threatening or abusive language, persistent attempts to try to collect a debt that you don't owe. If you've already told them it's part of a bankruptcy, or it's identity theft, that's a violation right then and there. Failure to send written notice. So there's a lot of different things. Again, threatening to wage garnish you if you don't pay. These are all violations of the law. These are all laws that are put in place to protect us consumers from these abusive tactics that collection companies often use. And unfortunately, a lot of people do fall for it, but if that has happened in the past, at least now you can say you're more educated than you were then. It's a learning process and there's a lot to know about it, right? I would say the one that you really want to pay attention to is the timing because like I said before, they cannot contact you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. So you want to record all the calls with collection agencies as proof and they can only call you once daily. Now, if they are actually able to speak with you, like I mentioned before, then they cannot call you again for at least 7 days. All right. And I see this violation happening all the time. Document it. You've got a case on your hands. Okay. Any calls within 7 days after they speak to you is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Any consumer that verbally requests the debt collector to stop calling them and they continue to call them, that's a violation, and so on. Emails, text messages. If you are getting emails or text messages before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m., that could be a violation. You did not opt in to receive these messages. If they do not have an opt-out, that is a violation. So there are a lot of violations that these companies are making, and let them be the brunt of it because there is a gentleman that came on to the credit community. His name is Vance Dotson, and he is amazing, really amazing person. Now, he's not a lawyer per se, but he is a consumer advocate that I actually would trust people with because he's not out here giving false information. If you are not aware of him, definitely follow him, but watch this class that he came on and did inside of the credit community because he has won millions and millions from suing debt collection companies. That's his whole specialty, is suing debt collection companies. So if you feel like, hey, I've got a case, he can help you and he can certainly help win you some money. Or if you want to, find a consumer attorney with the resources above, you can certainly do that again. But here are the top 25 violations from debt collectors, and read through these when you guys get it. Take a screenshot so you can review these a little bit later. But these are by far the number top ways that people are getting lawsuits and getting checks. And a lot of times when you take a collection agency to court, they're going to go ahead and delete that collection account as part of the agreement. They're going to remove that trade line from your credit, plus pay you X amount of dollars for the damages that they caused. So yeah, it's definitely worth being educated, because there's some people out there like Vance and others that are in his community. This is what they do. They sue debt collectors and they make a really good living doing it. And Vance said, one thing that I had to do when I first started my credit repair business was I had to be different than everyone else. I had to think outside of the box and how I was going to do that. And here he is 10 years later, and this is his specialty. There's not a whole lot of, credit repair companies out there that can do the same. Now, of course, he's got a lot of experience. And if you are like, hey, I could do it, but I just don't know how, to fill out the paperwork, he can help you. And it's a lot less expensive than hiring, a consumer attorney that's licensed. But he's probably the only one that I would say, yeah, I can say he's legit and he's not trying to get over on anyone. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I know we didn't go over every single little thing in here, but this is why I put it in the document for you guys to kind of learn. And later on in this series, I'm going to be going over with you guys the Fair Debt Collection Practices law that helps protect consumers. There's that, and then the FCRA. But of course, watch all of the 25 videos in this top 25 credit repair secrets that no one wants to tell you about and everyone wants to charge you for. Because again, I give you the information that you need to know, not what you want to hear that sounds all sweet and nice and pretty and perfect. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Because my friends, if you knew better, you would do better. If you haven't by now, make sure that you've subscribed to the channel. Give me a huge thumbs up. And if you want to purchase this guide, comment the word guide and I will send you the link to get this guide. Or you can join the credit community. Inside of the community, you will have access to this guide and so much more. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Happy New Year. Take action, my friends. Okay, I'll see you next time.